Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on this Sunday, January the 11th, the first Sunday of the season where there has not been a Tennessee Titans game preceding the primetime show. I don't know what you did with your Sunday, but the first one is always pretty nice, if I'm being honest with you. I enjoy that first Sunday removed from the Titans season, but by the time we get moving forward, I tend to, get a little antsy and I start to bemoan the idea that I'm not covering postseason football. And I, weirdly enough, start longing for Tennessee Titans football, just something to do with my time because I don't like having this much time on my Sundays just generally. But as the Titans season concludes, of course, the coaching search is ongoing, and we're going to do an abbreviated primetime show tonight between these playoff games. Been an excellent weekend of playoff football, both college and pro. I say college because Indiana keeps winning, and I'm going to the national championship, and that's going to be sick. I was in Atlanta on Friday night, flew back Saturday morning, and just in time to catch all the madness between the Panthers and the Rams, the Bears coming back against the Packers. We had a fun one today between Jacksonville and Buffalo, where Josh Allen got his first road win in the postseason, which is kind of crazy. And now the Niners go into Philadelphia and knock them off. We got the Chargers and the Patriots tonight, which I know Titans fans are going to at least have a little bit of a side eye towards before Pittsburgh and Houston wrap us up for this wild card weekend. But there were some additional notes on John Harbaugh and a potential interest in the Titans job that I thought were worth talking about for 10 minutes tonight. So that's what we're going to do, an abbreviated primetime show. And the question that I'll ask you on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch is, where would you rank the Titans job between 1 and 8? There are currently 8 available jobs open at this point in time. Where would you rank the Tennessee Titans as far as the level of attractiveness from this place, from Cam Ward, from Mike Borgonzi, the level of unattractiveness of this place, and how much Amy Adams-Strunk's erratic behavior, whatever the proper grammar on that is, looks, how different that looks optically, externally, where maybe you're comfortable with Amy Adams-Strunk in the way that she does business, but I can tell you a lot of people in the league are not, and would be at least looking with a somewhat of a side eye at this particular place. Also, I'm very confused, and I think I had some kind of conversation with you guys about this in a previous primetime show, but I feel like need to expand on it on the radio show. I'm very confused why people keep telling me that the new stadium is a reason that a coach would want to be here, as if that really matters. 1 day a week, 9 days a year that you're coaching on the sideline, supposed maybe 10 or 11, depending on preseason games. But I don't think that the new stadium, Vegas just got a new stadium, and you guys keep telling me how much worse a job that is when you're basically the same job at this point in time. So I'm very confused by the stadium that keeps getting brought up by Titans fans, but that's fine. Whatever you gotta tell yourself to tell you that this job is more or less attractive than you might otherwise think. But we've got a few updates that are worth talking about here on John Harbaugh, and that is what we will get into tonight. So the one question I'm going to ask you, your Two Rivers Ford take, is always made possible by the South's most trusted Ford dealer, Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet. Quality American-made Ford vehicles and award-winning customer service is what they offer. Go to Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet, like I mentioned, or visit them online at tworiversford.com. All right, so as you look, Mr. Shuckle, which is an interesting name, says, Buck, I'm assuming you think the Titans are the worst job. No, I think definitively the Dolphins is the worst job, and I love Miami as a city. I love South Florida just generally. If I ever make enough money to have a vacation home, I will probably have one in South Florida. If I get the option to it, that's perhaps we'll have that conversation on my next contract, not this current one. But I think that Miami Dolphins are the worst job on a scale of 1 to 8, and that's kind of where I want you guys to, really think about where these teams are. And maybe you're not as familiar with the Falcons salary cap situation, which is not good, right? I do still think that the Falcons, I personally, again, I'll have a list. You guys are welcome to rank the Titans wherever you think, and then you can yell at me if you think they're too low. Plenty of people did on the internet. on Friday because somebody impromptu asked me for a list, and apparently not many Titans fans like my list because I don't think that it's the best job. In fact, I don't think it's a top half job based on the number of jobs that are available. And I think that if Green Bay comes open, I think that just pushes the Titans further down in terms of the level of attractiveness that this place actually is. But I do think that this is a good job for a couple of reasons. Like, there are reasons to like the Titans job. I just think that there are equally as many reasons to dislike the Titans job if you are looking at this from an external perspective, which, of course, the vast majority of you are not. You want this to be a place that people want to be. I completely understand that. You don't want to have to settle for a less than coach. I completely understand that. Nobody's faulting you for that. I'm not mad at you if you think this is a better job than I do. I'm just telling you that, like, as somebody who is not a fan, I think it's easier for me to look at the flaws of this place and be like, yeah, this versus that. I just wouldn't, if it was me, I would not be interested in this. But there's also the idea that I have some level of bias because I know entirely too much about the Tennessee Titans organization. And that makes my opinion, frankly, lower of them because I do know entirely too much for the last 10 years about them and the people that run them and the job that they've done running them. And again, it doesn't mean that they'll be bad forever. And it doesn't mean that smart people who are employed by your organization can't make corrections from the previous mistakes that they've made. It also doesn't mean that Mike Borgonzi can't be one of the biggest reasons why this thing turns around and that Cam Ward can become, I don't know if he's going to be a superstar or anything like that, but I think that Cam Ward can be a fine NFL quarterback, a starting caliber NFL quarterback. I think he's certainly shown that that you can line up and play with him at bare minimum, right? Like, that's, as a baseline, you could do a lot worse than what Cam Ward has shown you in his rookie year, even if I'm not, willing to completely go all in and say, yeah, that guy definitively is the cure to all the Titans football ills that we have at this point in time. But the John Harbaugh of it all is the place that we will start this evening. And that's why I ask you on a scale of 1 to 8, rather, how attractive do you think this job is? Like, where would you rank the Titans from 1 to 8? So as you look at this, and again, Green Bay, we'll see what happens with Green Bay. So potentially we could be talking about 9 at some point this week. Took them until Tuesday to fire Harbaugh. Took them until Thursday of last week to fire Mike McDaniel in Miami. So there's really no rules when it comes to the coaching carousel at this point because nobody's hiring yet. And we're all just kind of in a bit of an 8-way standoff at this point in time, looking at all the different things. Adrian Gonzalez says, don't forget the new stadium. Again, I don't give a shit about the new stadium. The new stadium means nothing to me. You could be the new stadium. I'm sure it will be a thing that the next coach says, yeah, okay, great. But like the new stadium, all it means that he's going to be coaching, in front of thousands of Kansas City Chiefs fans when you play them or New York Giants fans when you play them at Nissan Stadium in a new stadium versus an old stadium. Like, it's not like the new stadium does not mean that you immediately get a home field advantage that, frankly, you've never had in the 10 years that I've been living here and covering this NFL franchise. Like, the new state, guys, I'm not saying that it means jack shit because it's going to be a nice thing and it will mean a lot to the city. But like, the Tennessee Titans are such a small percentage of what that new stadium is about. Like, who gives a flying, I can't say the other word, but who gives a shit about the new stadium if you're just sitting there coaching in front of all the opposing fans that you're still going to have the same problem with? In fact, you're going to have a bigger problem with tourism that way because this is a new stadium and people will want more opposing fans than ever before will want to come to your new stadium. And also because Nashville is a tourist destination. So please, 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 God, stop trying to convince me that the new stadium is something that a new coach is going to look at this job and be like, yeah, if it's a toss-up between that and the New York Giants, give me Tennessee because, by God, they've got a new stadium. Get the bleep out of here with that. That's nonsense. Anyway, there's a lot of other things that are good about this job. I'm just saying focus on the things that are good about the job and not the things that you just want to convince yourself make this job good. The reasons why the Titans job is good. Cam Ward is promising. Like, I'm cautiously optimistic about Cam Ward. I think he's tough as shit. I think he's very mentally prepared for the responsibilities that he will have. I think there's going to be growing pains, and I don't think that he's going to be a finished product in the immediate future, but I do think that Cam Ward is the biggest reason by a mile, that this job would be attractive. 2 is Mike Borgonzi. And honestly, if I was an NFL personnel, I might even flip-flop those 2 and say that Mike Borgonzi is the most attractive thing about the Tennessee Titans job because I know more about Mike, frankly, than I do about Cam as a quarterback. But those are your 2 things, that and cap space. So you've got 3 huge reasons why this job is attractive. A quarterback that is promising, but not a finished product. So, okay, I might put Cam 3 if I was ranking right now, like in 2026, based off what we have seen. Where would you rank Cam Ward, or how would I stack these things? So, 1, Mike Borgonzi. 2, over $100 million in cap space. 3, Cam Ward. 4, Jeffrey Simmons. Those are 4 pretty damn good things. 4 pretty damn good things about this job. Now, where does that rank them relative to all the other jobs that are open at this point in time? And maybe you think that I'm not giving Cam Ward enough credit. You're entitled to your opinion on that. I'm not going to go in all in on the Cam Ward thing when I've seen one season sample size. And really, like, I don't know, would I say out of 17 games, how many games did I come away with a good feeling about Cam Ward? I might say 6. So, less than half of their games this year, I looked at the Cam Ward of it all and said, all right, like, I get it. And he's clearly making progress, incremental progress. And that's really all you can ask of a guy in this particular situation. Like, I'm not, for all the same reasons that I am down on the Tennessee Titans as an organization, I give Cam Ward credit for battling through all the things that me personally, I look at the Titans job sideways as and be like, yeah, but all these different things are conspiring against you. Cam Ward fought through a lot of that shit at this point in time, and I give him all the credit in the world for it. But he's not, he's not a sure thing. There is nothing about Cam Ward that is currently a sure thing at this point in time. Curtis says you're surprised you are that high on Cam. You guys think because I'm critical, that means that I'm down on the dude. Like, no, it just means that he's the number 1 overall pick, that I've got high standards for that. And if he's going to be the franchise changer that you all keep trying to convince me that he is before you've seen him turn into an actual professional quarterback, then yeah, I'm going to hold him to a higher standard. You can be critical of somebody and still be optimistic about it. I just think that you guys have a weirdly adverse reaction. Some of you. It's okay. Not all of you are like this. I think the internet is a particularly reactionary place. But some of you are weirdly defensive about any kind of criticism levied towards that quarterback. And I'm very, very confused by it, because if I was you, I would also look around and be like, yeah, he's solid, but they're still 3-14 again. So how much better can he get, and how much faster can he get there? Because that's a huge part of this. And can the Tennessee Titans facilitate that level of growth? That is something that I'm very suspect of, because I don't trust them as an organization to do the job correctly, because they have shown me for 4 straight seasons that they have been incompetent as far as this goes. Like I said, they are allowed to learn from their mistakes and improve, just as a player would make mistakes in a game, come back the next week and improve upon those things. So I think that you have to be cognizant of that. And really, take all those things into account, while also granting him some grace in the case of Cam Ward, to be like, yeah, man, I know it was going to be tough here all year long, but it's going to be tough everywhere in the NFL. So buck up and let's get going here, because they'll churn and burn you just like they have every other player. Mark Jane says, were you critical of Caleb Williams? I mean, I don't cover Caleb Williams. I guess I kind of do now with Fox, but like, I'm not in Chicago. I don't have to give a shit about the day-to-day of Caleb Williams. I think that it's fair to be critical. Also, Caleb Williams was better as a rookie than Cam was. So no, if I was there, I wouldn't have as many criticisms of Caleb Williams as I did of Cam Ward. Also, Caleb Williams is an infinitely better prospect than Cam Ward was. So like, honestly, if I was in Chicago, I would have even a higher standard for Caleb Williams, because I would think him that much better of a prospect than Cam Ward, that much more prepared for the NFL. I looked at Cam, relative to what was available, and said, yes, by the time we got to the combine, all right, I understand that that's the best that they're going to do. And that's fine. Is it going to be good enough to win a Super Bowl? No idea. Is it going to be good enough for them to win their division? No idea. Is it going to take as long as Trevor Lawrence for him to figure this shit out? No idea, right? But I can still look at all these things and say, um, yeah, I have to I have to have some level of yeah, but about all of these guys forever and always. I mean, even Patrick Mahomes, we have to have a conversation about whether he is good enough for them to continue to deplete the roster around him. Because lately, frankly, he hasn't been. Like, you can have criticisms of all of these guys and still think that they are good or excellent NFL players, depending on who you're talking about and the context surrounding them. So, yes, if I was covering Chicago, I would be critical of Caleb Williams. If I was covering Indianapolis, I would be critical of, oh my God, who was their quarterback this year? Daniel Jones, right? To think about it for a second, he's been hurt so long. If I was covering Baltimore, I'd be critical of Lamar. Like, that's just, you guys think that I would pull punches if I was in a different market. Like, no, of course, it's ridiculous. So as you talk about all the different things that are here and the reporting of Albert Breer, who earlier, yesterday, rather, on John Harbaugh said, literally, the tweet says, on John Harbaugh, no interviews this weekend. He'll start this coming week. Sources say 6 teams reached out right away. Miami made it 7 last night. He won't interview with them all. So he's not interviewing with all of the 7 teams that reached out. And the Breer tweet goes on to say, so I'd see the realistic landing spots as of now as the Giants, Dolphins, Titans, and Falcons. So for all different reasons. Diana Rossini, our friend at The Athletic, also reported that Harbaugh was spending a part of the week and into the weekend watching film of Jackson Dart with the New York Giants and Cam Ward of the Tennessee Titans to kind of get caught up on them, to do his homework before he does start to interview these things in earnest. And you have a circumstance where you look around and where you look around and say, okay, what is the percentage chance that the Titans, if you narrowed it down to 4 out of the 8, that John Harbaugh would end up here? I believe when the news broke of his firing, I said 2.5% chance, and I'd probably bump that up to 3. I think they'd have a 3% chance to land John Harbaugh. I still don't think it's good. I don't think that there are, based on his speculated list of demands, $20 million a year, $10 million a year for staff, more roster control than he had in Baltimore. Apparently, he wants a say in the general manager that he is paired with. Obviously, he would be paired with Mike Borgonzi in this situation. If he wanted to go to New York and get Joe Shane fired, John Harbaugh's got the juice to do that. So I would probably bump it up a half a percentage point from 2.5 to 3 and say that, yes, there is reasons to think that the Titans do have a chance in this. Do I think it's a good chance? No, I would maintain it's still below at that point in time. So I think that there's a lot of reasons why I would hold this job up if I was somebody who was selling it. And there's also a lot of reasons if I wanted to go counterpoint, devil's advocate argument on this job, I could come in and say, especially with somebody who knows how they operate, or at least how they've operated to this point. I'm not going to, judge them on future practices just because they've handled things to a certain way or in a certain way in the past. But I do have that as context to why I'm skeptical of them getting it right, because I do think that this coaching search, and I wrote about this at A to Z Sports yesterday, I do think that this coaching search it's as big a test for your owner as it is about the head coaching candidates that you're testing to come in here and to take this job. I think this is a huge moment for Amy Adams Strunk to prove herself to you, that she can frankly just hire the right people to do their jobs. And then, with all due respect, even though it's her product and her team, she got to get the hell out of the way and just let the football people, the people with the football backgrounds, make these decisions. And I don't want to say that any owner should just be relegated to signing checks, but in a perfect world, you would hire smart football people, let them make smart football decisions, and just greenlight it the whole way through. To her credit, I think she's tried that. I think it has failed spectacularly at this point in time. So, how would I rank these jobs from 1 to 8? Ravens, to me, are the best job. Whatever job has Lamar Jackson, that is immediately the best job. No question about it. 100%, absolutely. Big 2033 says, wasn't it her who hired Vrabel? No, John Robinson hired Mike Vrabel. John Robinson pushed Mike Mularkey out the door to hire Mike Vrabel. Amy did greenlight it, to her credit. Ultimately, does she hire all of them? Yes. So if she hired Mike Vrabel, she hired Mike Mularkey, she hired Brian Callahan, she hired Rand Carthon. She hired all of these people because it is, again, her team. But if you want to say who is most responsible for Mike Vrabel being the coach here, it's the former Patriot executive, John Robinson, at that point in time. But she also greenlit the A.J. Brown trade, right? So, like, all of these things are ultimately her decision. Whether she makes the right or wrong decision, it's still fair to judge her for the things that she's gotten wrong and praise her for the things that she's gotten right. I don't think she has gotten enough credit, frankly, and I've said this a couple of times. She made the right call on firing Brian Callahan 6 weeks in. Like, they are indisputably better. Cam Ward was infinitely in a better situation because she fired Brian Callahan, because she didn't do what she said she was going to do. She didn't stick to the plan. Didn't stick to the plan at this point in time. So, best job, or where the Titans rank out of the jobs that are available right now. 1, Ravens, indisputably, no questions asked. 2, Giants. Dart, I think that I do like Cam Ward better than I like Jackson Dart. Just full disclosure. I think the Giants roster is in a much better place than the Titans roster is. I think there's a lot less heavy lifting to do. I think they can turn that thing around quicker. They have a star receiver when he comes off injury. They have star defensive players. They have a pass rush. They have at least one stud offensive lineman in the left tackle, though the rest of the offensive line situation is a bit suspect. There's a lot less heavy lifting to do in New York. And also, if I was John Harbaugh, and we're running this through the context of John Harbaugh, I would look at Joe Schoen and be like, yeah, I can get that guy out if I don't want him, the way that Liam Cohen did with Trent Baalke in Jacksonville last year. Jacksonville said, all right, if we can't get Liam Cohen because we've got Trent Baalke, get Baalke out of here. Come on in, Liam Cohen. I know the Jags just lost in the playoffs today, but still ended up being the right call. So Giants, 2 on that list. 3, Falcons, for the same reason. Quarterback is the biggest unknown, right? But fresh start, clean slate. Their cap situation is a huge thing that the next general manager is going to have to work through. The Kirk Cousins deal is the reason that Terry Fontenot got fired. Michael Penix coming off a 3rd major knee injury is something that I am hesitant about, but skill players all over the place. Offensive line has been paid and taken care of. Defense is good for the next couple of years. They don't have a first-round pick. The biggest knock on the Falcons is the fact that their first-round pick is now the Rams' first-round pick. So the Falcons are the 3rd best job to me because, again, closer to ready to go. I think John Harbaugh is going to be closer to, or want jobs that are closer to being ready to go than how many years it's going to take for a 62-year-old to build this thing back up into a reasonably competent thing. So Falcons, I would go 3. Now, this is where Titans fans got the most mad at me, and that's fine. Again, my position, you're entitled to think however you want to think about it. 4, I went with the Raiders, and 5, the Titans. And then the 6 through 8 is Browns, Cardinals, Dolphins. I don't think those are good jobs. But the Titans are in the bottom half to me. Now, I look at the Raiders for all the same reasons that you guys keep telling me that the Titans job is a good job. Owner, biggest reason to not like the Raiders job. Owner, biggest reason to not like the Titans job. Cap space, huge reason that the Titans job is good. Raiders have a ton of cap space. They'll have some dead cap that they have to eat. You'll have some dead cap that you have to eat. I don't know that Snead and Cushenberry and Calvin Ridley are all gone next year, but there will be dead cap hits associated with some of those guys. I'm assuming that at least 2 out of 3 are not going to be Tennessee Titans in 2026. We will see how much dead cap they ultimately end up having to eat. That will bring that cap space down a little bit. Raiders will have to do the same. And they also have the Max Crosby of it all that's kind of hinging on the next head coaching hire, and Tom Brady trying to undo a lot of the wrongs that he did in his first season. But they have the number 1 overall pick. They have as much cap space basically as the Titans. They have the new stadium that you guys keep telling me is an attractive thing, except theirs is already done and you're still waiting for yours. So I think because it is more of a clean slate for the next head coach, that to me, clean slate means better. Because if I was a coach, I would want the opportunity to remake as much of the organization as humanly possible. Here, there are just things more set in stone. Cam Ward is going to be your quarterback. That's not a bad thing, by the way. Mike Borgons is going to be your GM. Not a bad thing at all. But if I was a coach looking at those jobs, I would be able to do more in the first year, have control over more in the first year than I would with the Raiders. And I think Mendoza and Cam are, we'll see what happens with Mendoza. I'd like to see who they're going to pair him with. The Raiders have a lot of roster work to do as well. That offensive line, Cam Ward is in a way better situation offensive line-wise than anybody who's going to quarterback the Raiders. Ashton Genty, I'm not really sure what to make of him because their offensive line play was so poor. Again, I don't think either of them are great jobs. I think that they are outside of the top three definitively. You could convince me to flip back and forth between the Raiders and the Titans, but I think that those jobs are basically equitable. For all the same reasons that you talk about, both good and bad, they are basically the same job right now. Browns, Cardinals, Dolphins, I really don't have to get into the details of it. We don't know what's going to happen with Kyler Murray or Tua Tagovailoa this year. Deshaun Watson, I guess, at some point is going to play quarterback for the Cleveland Browns at some point. So that's the thing that Titans fans got the most butthurt about over the weekend with me, because I'm not that impressed with the things that they keep telling me that I should be impressed with, even though that's exactly what Raiders fans are saying about their job. And if you're shitting on the Raiders, then why wouldn't you turn around and Spider-Man meme yourself and be like, oh, we're basically the same job at this point, except one of us has more ideas or a better idea of the quarterback, be that good or bad. I happen to think that Cam Ward has a lot of promise. I just hope that they do right by him and put him in position to succeed. So we will see what happens with the head coaching cycle moving forward. Again, I would still put them squarely 4 out of 4 of the teams that Albert Breer listed that might be able to land John Harbaugh. But I am curious to see what John Harbaugh's process looks like this week. We know that they interviewed 7 candidates throughout the course of the weekend. I know that you liked none of them based on some of the responses that I saw to the Steve Spagnuolo interviews and the Jason Garrett interviews and all these different kind of things. I told you I was going to go for 10 minutes tonight. We went for 26. That is going to do it for us tonight. The Primetime Show is, of course, made possible by the wonderful people at Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer, by the Tennessee Department of Transportation, who reminds you that you can be a part of the solution to end littering at NobodyTrashesTN.com. By Simon Says Nashville, the premier men's clothing spot in Nashville is Simon Says. SimonSaysNashville.com, and your first workout is free as a Middle Tennessee resident at Trumav Fitness in the Gulch. All right, abbreviated prime time tonight because I want to make sure you guys have plenty of time to watch playoff football. Been a great weekend of playoff football. If you're pissed about this, you can yell at me about it on the radio show tomorrow. If the Packers job comes open, we can re-engage in this discussion, and I will see where I might put Matt LaFleur or put the Packers job in the 1 through 8 or 1 through 9 at that point, theoretically, that we would see. I'm also curious to see what happens with the Eagles at this point in time, and I think that A.J. Brown is 100% a future New England Patriot. If you made me take a guess about how that's going to go in Philly, I think that there's a lot of things that are going to start to unravel, which is pretty crazy, given that prior to today, where they lost to the Niners at home, prior to today were the defending Super Bowl champions. So we will see what happens with their offseason. It's going to be fascinating. Have a great rest of your evening. Always good to hang out with you guys. Like the video on the way out the door. And we will let you enjoy the remainder of playoff football, and we will talk to you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. on 104.5 The Zone.
He's a hoe, and I want that known. Like, I see why he got